All right. We are live. Beers, cheers, and happenings. I'm Peter with Beards Brewery. And we have today Mike Moran with My Local Hops, of course. And we're talking about hops today. Mike, you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here talking Hop Shop.
Hop Shop, it's good times. So usually what we like to do is start by cracking a beer. It's like kind of 5 o'clock. The idea of the show is maybe people are getting off work, coming home. Maybe you're cooking dinner. Maybe you're just putting your feet up. You want to crack a beer. So that's what we're going to start with before we get into questions. I think we both picked Copper Star. Again, I got the green screen cutting it out, but you could give a good shot of it there.
Yeah. Good little design.
So Copper Star is really special because it uses the My Local hops, and it features it. So it's 100% My Local hops. And Mike, for people that are, let me give it briefly. Probably most people are aware hops are an ingredient in beer. One of the core 4 ingredients. We have malt, and then we have water, and we have yeast, and of course there's other things added in different beers. But hops are one of the key original staple ingredients that provide a lot of flavor. Do you want to talk a little bit about, well, you're with My Local Hops located down in Williamsburg. And I guess this Michigan Copper hop, I'd like to ask you a little bit about that. I tell people it's an indigenous hop, and I think it goes like over their head. And then I say, like it's discovered in the state, right? Like, you want to give a little bit more about the history of the Michigan Copper hop?
Yeah. Michigan Copper is bred out of a company called Great Lakes Hops in Zeeland, Michigan. They're a proprietary based greenhouse. And they've been doing hops like Michigan Copper. I think has been one of their most successful hops. There's a couple like Supersizer, Mackinac is the big one now. There's a few more out on the market: Emerald Spire, Bergamot, Paradigm, and Gemini. But Michigan Copper was really, in my eyes, it was the most versatile hop. It has part of its lineage is Michigan Chinook. And we, sometimes when you're working with proprietary breeders, they won't let you know every variety that's in the hop. But when we first started, we took a chance on Michigan Copper. And one of the first things we noticed in the dryers was that it had an intense pineapple aroma. And therefore, in the first year, hops don't really mature until their third year. They become more stable. They become more consistent. Their aroma profile comes on a lot stronger. But to have that in the first year, it gave us a lot of positive signals that it could be something that we could really get behind and bring to market. And we put a lot behind it in the first year. And second year, it came out even stronger. We were able to target its aroma sensory window at around anywhere in the first week of September. That's when it seemed to really thrive and really pop. So we would harvest it in that first week of September, and we've just been targeting those first 5 days of September ever since.
Great. So for those of you just joining, we have Mike Moran with My Local Hops down in Williamsburg, and we're talking about hops today, like kind of a craft that's come back to the state. So, it kind of left. I think the state used to grow hops more, and then it's been rebuilding and rekindling. If you have questions about hops or beer or their roles, please throw them in the comments. We'd love to take your questions live here. So a little bit more, and maybe I have thought of this a little different. You were talking about breeding hops and hop breeders in Michigan. So and you said one of the strains in Michigan Copper is Michigan Chinook. So is Michigan Chinook, so the Michigan Copper is kind of a hybrid that is like sort of crossbreed it like intentionally, or is it something that they found and then is Michigan Chinook then found in the state and then they bred it with other things, or how does that work? Just you could explain that a little
Every
more.
hop has a lineage.
Right.
One of the major hops, Cascade and Centennial, like Fuggle has a big impact on hops as far as the lineage goes. So the majority of them are crossbred. I think the only one I don't have the knowledge of a lot of these proprietary hops in the Pacific Northwest, what their lineage is. You can usually find that on the internet, but off the top of my head, I mean, something like Citra or Mosaic, all of those came out of the breeding programs in the Pacific Northwest. So Michigan really, in order to compete on that kind of a market, Great Lakes Hops kind of stepped up and did some of their own breeding. And they brought to the table hops like Michigan Copper. Now, when I say Michigan Chinook, we've been calling it Michigan Chinook. It's been well known that it's one of the only varieties that has a significant difference in aroma from the Pacific Northwest Chinook.
Okay.
So in order to separate it on the marketing level, that's why we call it Michigan Chinook.
Sure.
But you can tell when you take a look at the cones, you've got a couple pictures, but the cones of Chinook and Copper and Mackinac are very long. They kind of look like fingers. And
get a picture here of a hop.
They're not cone. They're a little, they flare out a little bit. That's a Centennial, actually cut right down the middle.
Okay. And let me see, maybe I got another cone picture. Let me see if it's, I don't know my hop cones as well.
That's a Michigan Copper hop right there.
Okay, perfect. And that's the magic hop. That is a lot longer. It is, you see good variety in hop cones as to some of them are short and stubby more. Some of them are elongated like this. There's a variety of sizes, I know, that you can see in the hop cones.
Yeah, color is a big deal. Stripes are a big deal. One of my favorite hops to look at is Crystal. It's got this like white stripe right down the middle of it. Cascade has some stripe to it, and shape has a lot to do with it too. If you look at it from the bottom or dead on from the bottom, it can have a square shape or circle shape or rectangle. So they all have different characteristics.
Yeah, but that's the Michigan Copper, which we've done a lot with that hop and are excited to have it available to us here in the state of Michigan. And are you selling some of these proprietary blends outside of Michigan as well?
Yeah, in the first 2 years, I would say we were selling 70% outside of Michigan.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
Yep. There were a lot of states that were, I wouldn't say ahead of us in experimentals, but marketing was always looking for a new story to tell. And they were seeking out new hops. So when we started to, there were a couple growers that were growing Michigan Copper before we were, but not on we have 7.5 acres. We're up to 17. Most of those yards were pretty small acreage and they would sell out pretty quickly.
Yeah. And you guys have beautiful fields here. I just love this picture you had sent me with the sun coming across them. Yeah. Maybe for people that aren't as familiar with how hops grow, do you want to talk a little bit about what we're looking at here? Like, the scale of it too,
Yeah, you're looking at a Michigan Chinook yard. And that's about 7.5 to 8 acres of Michigan Chinook. That's a yard that's off the My Local Hops Williamsburg farm. And you're looking at hops the day of harvest.
Wow.
So if you look pretty closely, you can see cones popping. That year they were specifically top heavy, so you can see them near the top of the wire. And when you hear top wire or it's hit the top, that's definitely a good sign. You can see some hops that haven't gotten to the top of the wires, and those are normally hops that are in their first years, or they're lacking nutrition, or they're just lacking good soil. But as you can see, Chinook is a healthy yard, and a healthy grower here in Michigan.
Yeah.
Not all hops grow as well climate has a lot to do with it. And we're on the 45th parallel, which is along the lines of the Pacific Northwest and Yakima Valley in Oregon and Idaho.
Yeah.
But not everything. Like Fuggle is a hop that struggles here. That's why we don't grow it. Columbus has been a hop that's historically struggled here. Of course, there will be people who say I can grow Columbus or I can grow Fuggle. I'm sure they can because maybe they've given it the time. Time has a lot to do with it. If you've been able to keep your hops in the ground for 3 to 4 years, you should have healthy plants. You should be at the top wire. It's getting past those first couple of years and being able to sell those hops on a consistent basis. That's the important factor in hop farming. Did we lose you?
All right. Sorry. Yeah. No, I was trying to get it shared on Facebook as well. And what I heard you talking in the past, and then I got confused as to which one of you was actually talking. It is on Facebook, and so I was just double checking the feed there to make sure everything was live and working. I see Steve, who's typically live with us, has joined. He couldn't make it live tonight, but he's got some other stuff going. If anybody else is just joining and looking to ask questions, we have Mike Moran from My Local Hops, and we're talking about different breeds of hops, how hops grow, and whatnot. So please throw those questions out. We'd be happy to get to those a little later. One thing we're talking about it, and I got distracted there trying to double check the feed, but the height of the hops, and you can see them behind me. I mean, this growth you see, that all happens every year. And I think when you guys get to harvesting, let me get my picture switched over so that people can kind of get a little better sense. Like, look at the height here. Look at that machine, right?
Yep.
And these things are what? Your hop fields, are they growing 20, 25 feet?
They're 18 feet high.
18, okay.
Yep. And that what you're looking at there is a tractor with the top cutter on it, and it's riding the wire on the top. What happens is you'll see a bottom cutter roll through first. And that's just actually a still shot of they're probably waiting for a truck to show up. So what happens is you've got a bottom cutter that rolls through the yard and it cuts the bottom, so they're just hanging from that top wire. And then you've got a box truck with a bed in the back that comes in and gets in front of that tractor and goes into neutral, and then the tractor pushes the truck as the top cutter's hanging over the bed, and the bines are guided into the truck, and then they're taken to the processing facility.
Great. It's and I think I got a picture of that. Let me see if I can throw that up. The processing facility. This is a really a great thing you guys are doing here, right in in our backyard, so to speak, in northern Michigan. And I mean, this is a significant operation. Let me just throw that up so folks can see. I mean, you must have a pretty good sized crew that does this.
Yeah, it's seasonal, but overall our farm team is very small.
Okay.
We're usually around harvest, we bring in some seasonal workers, about 18 to 20, to help us with training and irrigation leading up to it. And then during processing, we bring in about, like I say, we normally bring in about 9 people a shift. So in the past, we've run 24-hour shifts just because of the amount of Centennial and Cascade we grew. And to make those harvest marks and those aroma windows, we got to be rolling 24 hours a day. So we normally do 2 shifts. But during the season, we have a total of 5 people out on the farm managing 220 acres. We have 2 farm managers, and then we have a maintenance manager and myself, who's the vice president and sales director. And then I have Jess, who works with me as a sales associate, who fulfills a lot of the orders. So we have a pretty small core team. But during the season, we get some help. We get some drivers as well. We bring some local drivers to be doing the trucks, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, I think it's a cool thing to have here in the state, because it puts a little more Michigan. With the guild, the Brewers Guild, we talk, it's the great beer state. But it puts a little highlight on it too, getting people. It's not just making beer, but making the ingredients for beer, and having, for craft, to me, like having a thriving industry that goes all the way back to the raw ingredients is big. So I think it's great.
And logistically too, I mean, when you have the majority of your ingredients for beer coming out of one section of the country, the Pacific Northwest, as far as us talking about the future of climate change and environmental impact and carbon footprints and things like that, it's nice to have Michigan be a source located, smack dab in the middle of the Midwest. We're able to ship to our customers within we normally get our product in Michigan within a day. Within the Midwest, the max is 2 days. And then we also service the East Coast and the South.
Okay. Great. So I had, the other thing I want to talk about quick is just a new product that we're doing. We talked about Copper Star, which is our, big summer seasonal. And that's pretty awesome. We've been exploring, typically hops have been used just, for beer. I mean, that's the primary. Most things have multi-uses, I feel like, like barley. And of course, malted barley is like a specialty ingredient, but barley in general could be used in a lot of different ways, whereas hops are kind of specialty. But I think, people are opening up to what maybe some different things looks like. And I'm going to throw this picture up as a new product we just are coming out with called Michigan Hop Water, where we want it to really double down on supporting this local hop industry and the agriculture in the state, and give a product that just highlights it. So this is a carbonated water where we do a cold steep of the hop, so it doesn't come across real bitter. It's really it uses that Michigan copper hop, which we've had a lot of success with, and it has, without the malt, I think it lends a little more citrusy, but still has some of that like pineapple you were talking about. Have you had a chance to try this yet, Mike?
I have, yeah. Justin dropped some off for us on a pickup, and everybody was raving about it. I think we called you up right after.
Yeah.
And we're excited about it.
So we're having some exciting success with this as far as feedback, and it's about to really hit the market. For those of you watching, we're going to give away a 4-pack of this today for a commenter. So please throw a comment in, ask us about anything you want, or just let us know you're here. We'd love to see that, and we'll ship you a pack of this. This is no alcohol, no calories, but it's a carbonated water with a nice hop flavor. I find it to be good also as a mixer, for different drinks, but it's great as just a standalone refresher too. So we're pumped.
Especially with the success of LaCroix and Bubbly and all those things. I mean, it's top-notch stuff. We're super excited about it because it's a local product.
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna trend upwards. I think you guys are gonna be able to take advantage of non-alcoholic festivals and just I think I'm really truly excited about this hop water.
So we're actually going to be selling it on our website soon too. That's a unique thing we can do with a non-alcoholic beverage. So if you're interested, keep an eye out on our beard shop. Our retail shop actually is set up for sales. So we're just going to kind of put it out there, shop.beardsbrewery.com, for our Michigan hop water. And again, if you have a comment or let us know you're here, we're happy to send you some of the hop water. Mary Southwood actually just popped up and said, is the hop water available at the Beards location? And the answer to that is yes. We do have the hop water available there. Right now it's just in cans. You can get a can while you're at your table too. But we have done it on draft some occasionally too. But we're trying to kind of build the brand, so we're running it in cans now too. It's got a cool label that our Steve did, our graphics guy. So as far as other hop related things, I know that you guys have been, I mean, you're one of the bigger producers in the state, maybe the biggest producer in the state, my local.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And I know that you guys do a lot with promoting the industry as well, and have been involved in the agriculture. You guys have a pretty cool event that you've been doing for a while now that I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, and it's Hop Camp. Do you want to give a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Hop Camp is it's a pretty loose event, but we wanted to give our customers and people in the brewing industry who want to know a little bit more about where their ingredients come from the opportunity to visit our farm at any time of day during hop harvest. So we know this living in northern Michigan, our busy season is the summer and the fall as well. And a lot of the service industry people, a lot of the people in the craft beer industry usually can't get out until like a Sunday or a Monday night. And we wanted them to be able to just kind of schedule a time at their leisure and give them an opportunity to come stay the night, camp on the farm. If they want to get up early and check out the hop processing and take a tour, we're willing to do that. If we want to do it at night, we're willing to do that. But we started this basically as just an open invitation. If you're in the industry or you are a customer, you email me and we'll set you up and then we'll give you a tour. We're hoping that one day it becomes something that's available to the public, but I think especially in 2020, that's an unrealistic idea right now.
Right.
But with the experience we've had, I've been involved with, I'm one of the co-managers of Suds and Snow, which is a festival that runs here in Traverse City, as well as Suds and Sun. And we know that Suds and Snow started with just 25 people.
Right.
And it took a couple years for it to go to pick up. And we feel the same way about Hop Camp. Every year, brewers are showing up and they're doing things like bottle sharing, and we just have a big bonfire and we talk shop, and it's a good chance for people to really network within the industry. But also we're located 6 miles from downtown Traverse City. We are less than 2 miles from East Bay Grand Traverse. Grand Traverse Resort, who's a partner with us. If people don't want to camp, we're able to help them out with getting them rooms at Grand Traverse Resort. And as you know, I mean, you guys have come down and made the trip. It's also a good opportunity to do hop selection and to do aroma sensory, go out into the yards and see the difference in these varieties, see how they grow. One of the big things that we go through every year is an audit from the Hop Quality Group. And the Hop Quality Group is it's a group full of very respected industry brewing directors and quality managers. And they come in and they audit facilities. But if you go to their website, they've got a new website, just hopqualitygroup.com. You can see that their main message right now is aroma over alpha.
Yeah.
And in order for our brewers in the state and in the Midwest to get a grip on that, they got to be in hop yards in order to understand the differences in aroma, not only pre-harvest, but after harvest. Sometimes we leave hops up on the vine so people get an idea of what hops smell like when they're past their harvest dates.
Yeah.
Those are all important factors. You know, the negative aromas, unfortunately in hops, you know, if a hop has the reputation of being onion and garlic, and you're not recognizing that as a hop grower, that can hurt you in the long run, and it can hurt the reputation of your product.
Well, that's very true. I'm just going to do a quick shout out here. We had some new viewers join. We're interviewing Mike Moran with My Local Hops, and we're talking about Hop Camp right now, which is something cool they do around harvest time. If you have questions or comments, or just let us know you're there, throw a comment out. We are going to be giving away some hop water, which is a new product we talked about a little bit earlier. Mike, you talked about the quality aspect, and you mentioned a few things. I'm happy to speak on this as well, as far as how it's used in beer. But you talked about alpha versus aroma, which probably most people have no idea what that is, just because that's kind of specific technical speak. Do you want to touch on what that is about?
Well, and a lot of the simplistic version of it is alpha is the content of how, there's alpha hops, which means they're more on the bittering side. So the higher your alpha percentage, the more bitter the hop is, simplistically. And then you also have beta, which measures, which some people use to measure aroma. But one of the main things that people are getting into is oil content within hops. And that has a huge impact on aroma. These are some of the nitty-gritty details that people are starting to discover as they dig deeper into their craft.
Yeah.
But if you want to talk about how brewers measure alpha, I'm always game to give you guys the mic on that, because I'm constantly learning, because it's changing every year.
Well, I've always heard of them as alpha acids, and it's the oil, basically a measurement kind of the types of oils in the hop, as I understand it.
Yep.
Yeah, and so for a brewer, there's two sides to it. If you have really high alpha acids, when you boil that hop, you're going to produce more bitter flavor. So if you're looking to make bitterness in your beer, a high alpha acid means, hey, I can use less hop and still get the same amount of bitterness.
Correct.
But some hops are not at it for the bitterness; they're at it for the flavor. For instance, that's why I talked very briefly on our hop water. We're just mentioning the hop water. Mm-hmm. We do a cold steep because we don't want to really get any of that isomerization, the bittering of the oils, turning them into a bitter compound. We want to get the hop flavor and aroma, and we want to kind of not make it bitter. So that's why we cold steep it.
And that's the difference between alpha and aroma hops. So like an alpha hop is more like a Columbus or CTZ or Zeus or a Magnum or a Nugget, where the alpha acids are normally above 14, 15. Our Magnum, for instance, is a high alpha hop. It gauges 17.3 to 17.7. Michigan Copper in general has been, the target alpha has been 10 to 11. Every year it's been in that wheelhouse. So that's why you're not getting, it's a good versatile hop, mainly Michigan Copper, Mackinac. Those hops really thrive as aroma hops, and they're added in, their late edition hops are dry hops.
Right. So let me see what else I had. How do you guys select? I guess this is another thing, a little bit back to the farming and the aspect of that work that you're doing. It's a kind of long process, right? Growing hops. You don't get full production year one. How are you guys working to select what varieties you're growing, what varieties you're prioritizing, and what is a season or what is the life cycle kind of a hop plant, and how does that affect the farming?
So I'll answer that first. So a hop plant is a perennial, so it comes back every year. Mm-hmm. The only reason why people replant or pull the hop out is due to market conditions. But as far as our selection process goes, so when I came on, I was originally hired to do marketing, and then I kind of teetered into sales, and then became the full-time sales manager. But our farm team will tell you the majority of the people on our farm now weren't here in the beginning when they decided what they were going to plant. And when they made those decisions were in 2014, 2015. And at that time, when you were pulling up the most popular hop varieties in America, it was also during a time, 2014 was a huge hop shortage. within the country. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people in Michigan put in hops, because they were reading everywhere there was going to be a hop shortage. Well, along with the people in Michigan, everybody in the Pacific Northwest started to double their acreage as well. In 2014, I believe the acreage was 33,000 pounds. In 2019, it's I think it was 58,000 pounds or around that. So it tells you how much it's grown in the Pacific Northwest. So in Michigan in 2015, the most popular hop was Cascade. And following up with that was the Super Cascade, which was Centennial. Mm-hmm. My Local Hops, the original founders, they went all in on Centennial and Cascade. They did about 90 acres of each. When 2016 came around, that market started to transition more into proprietary varieties. And proprietary varieties are, like we talked about earlier, they're coming out of hop research programs, the breeding programs in the Pacific Northwest. Citra is a proprietary variety, Mosaic, Simcoe, Amarillo, Eldorado. A lot of this, you have to have licenses or permissions to grow those. So Michigan cannot grow Citra right now. It's got a long ways to go in order to get those rights. So a lot of people went in on Centennial and Cascade. We've had to transition there. We've ripped out a lot of Cascade over the last couple of years, and I look at it as diversifying our portfolio. We're trying to find 5, 10 acre, 20 acre plots of hops that are absolutely needed by our brewers here in the Midwest.
Yeah.
We can't compete with people in California or Oregon or Washington, but we can listen to our brewers here, get their feedback of what they're brewing with, because not everybody is brewing with Cascade anymore. Or they found a substitute to replace that. So those are tough decisions, because in order to decide what you're going to plant, and knowing that your hops are not going to be mature and consistent until year 3, you have to be way ahead of the game, and you have to take some chances like we did with Michigan Copper. So it's a tough balance, but the main thing you have to do if you're a hop grower is you've got to talk to the brewers. You got to be on top of what they're looking for and where the industry is trending.
Yeah, the partnership there and the interaction between the brewer and the grower, and I think that's good too. We talk in a broader context of food and understanding where our food comes from and all that. Like as a brewer, like knowing the supply, knowing the people behind it, knowing what's available, and communicating that with those folks is very important. Of course, we've been fortunate being a Northern Michigan brewery. We're so close to you guys that's nice, but we can come down and see the farm easier. We can try different things. But I think you guys are good with communicating with the brewers as far as I can tell, at least with us. So
yeah, we have an open line of communication with all of our brewers. I mean, Justin, and your brewer, just called me an hour before the show, just to talk and figure out what's going on.
We have some exciting ideas there. I don't know if he talked to you about wet hop ideas that we got.
He's always got good ideas.
Yeah. We had a call earlier and we talked about this, and this is we've played with this some before. And for viewers joining, a wet hop beer is when you typically, actually, this is something we should talk about, the processing of hops. What that looks like. Typically, they're dried to preserve them. But that harvest time, you have a unique window to take those hops and put them right into your brew kettle. And so we're hoping to do some exciting things with that this year. But can you talk a little bit too about the processing of hops and how that is done and how, like, it's always been amazing to me that the short window of time you have to work on really preserving those flavors.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the reasons why we put a large processing facility on our farm is for that reason. So we can harvest those hops within an hour and a half max. So let's start with the picture behind you. We talked about the bottom cutter. We talked about the top cutter. We talked about the binds going into the truck. From there, the trucker is rolled to our processing facility, and we do have videos on our Facebook page at My Local Hops, and on our website and YouTube. They're floating around out there how the process is executed. But the truck will take those to the processing facility, and you can see that open door. It'll back up to the door. Each truck has a mat in it. Underneath the hop binds, the mat is hooked up to a chain, and the truck drives off. The mat falls to the floor with the hops on it, and then they're thrown into a Wolf 1000 hop picker, and it's called a Wolf 1000 because it can do 1,000 binds an hour. That facility right there is a 30,000 square foot facility, and the long section is all processing. The taller section of the building and up there at the top, that's ventilation for our dryers. We have 2 large kilns in there.
Does this show a little bit of it?
This is actually the pelletizing facility. So we have 2 different facilities on site. We have the processing facility and the pelletizing cold storage facility. So this is an 8,000 square foot pelletizing facility. And normally we start pelletizing in October, November. We pelletize our hops, and we pelletize for numerous farms in Michigan. As you can see, that's kind of an order. We do a lot of exporting. So we export to South Korea. We export to Brazil.
Nice.
We export to India, China, and we've exported to New Zealand in the past. We sold some hops to Canada, Mexico. So we're big into that, but we like to keep it close to home, of course. But when I was talking about the oversupply of things like Cascade and Centennial, that's mainly what we're exporting. As far as drying goes, that's where, you want to get them through those pickers within the hour off the truck. And that's why as far as wet hops go, we'd like to get them into the kettle within an hour or 3 hours. But we usually have about 12 hours to work with before they really start to wilt, and they really start to lose their characteristics.
That is such a unique thing, timing that, like, with you're picking these hops, and us being, just 45 minutes away with our production facility in Charlevoix, we're able to do that it's hard to plan it all to come together, but I mean, you're talking about hours. We're not talking about like weeks or days. I mean, you think of like picking an apple, and shoot, that's got a long life cycle, but hops are very fragile, in a lot of regards.
And they're fragile running through the machines. Like we were talking about the long cones, the Michigan Copper and Chinook. Those don't roll very well. They're not tight. They're not tight cones. Like when you look at a Centennial cone, it kind of looks like a closed pine cone, but it's more like a ball, and it rolls very well on the belts and on the shakers and everything. When you've got a Chinook cone or a Mackinac cone or a Michigan Copper cone, where they're long and they kind of flare out a little bit, there's something called shatter that happens, and you lose a lot of the green content when it rolls through the processors. You get more shatter the more time it spends in the truck. So the quicker you can get it through that machine, the stronger the hop is, the integrity of the hop stays together, and then it goes into the dryers. And what we're doing with the dryer is we're trying to it's like searing a steak. We're trying to sear the aroma into the hop. And we're looking at a moisture content between 9.5 and 10%. Once we've reached that content in the conditioning boxes, we bale up the hops in 165-pound bales, and they sit on the floor overnight to make sure that their core temperature of the bale is between 65 and 75 degrees. When we're bringing in bales from other farms, we do not take any bales above 85, 90 degrees because they're subject to spontaneously combust. So you have to constantly monitor the process. Once we've got them on the floor and they're between 65, 75 degrees, we can put them in the cold storage. There they'll stabilize for about a month, and then they'll go through the pelletizing facility.
There's a lot of moving parts.
Absolutely.
Literally and figuratively.
And what I'll say about you're right, and it can be underestimated. So I think the most important thing in our industry, and one of the most troubling things I've seen, is because I deeply, deeply care about the health of the Michigan hop industry for years to come.
Yeah.
And what I worry about is there were a lot of people who planted hops without having any idea on how they were going to be processed or where they were going to process them. And you get calls a week before harvest time being like, I don't know where to go. I don't know how to harvest these hops. That education needs to get out there more.
Yeah.
We need people to understand that, if you have a goal of growing hops and selling them to your local brewer, that you need to understand the entire process.
That's so big. I mean, I can't tell you how many calls we've gotten that's like, hey, you guys use hops, right? I'm like, yeah. Like, do you want some? I grew some. I was like, well, there's a lot of steps after growing. Like where you at? Are they ready to go? Or like they're like, yeah, you want to come pick them? I'm like, well, I can't pick them fast enough to make any valuable use out of them. And so it is like, it's so different than other things you grow, I think, because especially like the visual impact and the hot idea of it. It's like a hot market idea of it, like you see these things that grow fast. To an extent, they grow easy. They're pretty hardy, but they also have disease and things that if you really get into it, you need to understand like what they're susceptible to and what problems there can be. But then that harvest idea that you have this narrow window and per strain, right? Like, and maybe you could talk about that. You were talking about Michigan copper, and you always you picked specifically to harvest it in that first week of September,
right?
Because of the flavor. How long are you harvesting hops? And I guess what is the window of hop harvest for a specific variety? Like, how long would you harvest that hop? And what is the total window where the different hop varieties are coming?
So let's talk about this upcoming harvest. So we're going through the planning process there, and we have a couple of hops. One that we're really excited about is Tettnanger, which is Tettnang, which is it's a noble hop. It originated in Germany, and it's a lower alpha hop that does very well in pilsners and lagers.
Yeah.
That is an early variety, and it doesn't have much of an aroma to it. So we have to send samples of the hop to a lab down in Coopersville, and we'll get a good gauge of where the alphas and the betas and the oil content is. So it'll give us an idea when we can harvest. But our harvest date for that we've set is August 14th.
Okay.
From then, that's like we do 4.5 acres. That's our starting
variety. Is that the first variety that you will harvest?
That is the first variety that we will harvest this year. So normally in the past we've done Willamette, which is another low variety, which goes in porters and stouts. And Willamette is a great base hop, but it's also a substitute for Fuggle. So Tettnang, in general, that'll be our first one. We'll run through that. And then we start really monitoring our Centennial, because we are heavily invested in Centennial. And Centennial has such a quick turn. If it stays on the vine too long, it definitely goes OG. OG is onion garlic. It's bad for hops. So we want bright lemon. We want citrus. In our Centennial, and we start harvesting that. Last year we started on August 21st, and we ran that 24/7 for about 5 to 6 days straight.
Okay.
That'll be reduced this year because we're not going to be harvesting a lot of hops out in Empire. But from then on, it's kind of we go into hops like Magnum and Willamette. And then we move into Cascade, Michigan Copper, Mackinac. By that time, we're in early September. The later hops for us are Crystal and Chinook.
Yeah.
And then we've harvested hops, or we've taken in hops as late as September 24th.
So you might have like a 2-month window, but any variety might just have a 1-week window that you're harvesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some varieties, like there's a new variety out there from the public breeding program called Cashmere. And it's
Yeah.
starting to pick up a little bit. We put some in. I got a friend downstate, Sean Trowbridge at Top Hop Farms. He grows really good cashmere.
Nice.
But the cashmere window is extremely tight. It might be 24, 48 hours.
Wow. And so how do you make that call? Like, this is now ready to go. Like, this is the best it will get, and we need to harvest it now.
You have to monitor it every single year, and you got to keep good records. And
when you're talking like days, I mean, you must be making that call that year. It's not like, okay, we know that we're going to harvest it on this day this year. It's like every year that might change a little, wouldn't it? Based on
it can, yeah, based on season and based on, even the spring.
Right. So
it's not easy.
Is it all analysis by, is there technical analysis you're doing to make that decision? Or is it, more subjective, like somebody gets good at knowing when it's right based on aroma and...
It's having somebody on staff that gets good, who knows the aroma inside and out.
Yeah. And that's so special. And, I think in so much, when you talk about craft and what makes craft beer special too, I mean, I think so much things are process and oriented, but when you can't hand it over to a machine, so to speak, you have to somebody has to get good and develop the skill at it. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can send it to a lab and you can get in that wheelhouse of the preferred alpha acids and stuff like that. But we've done that in the past, and it still has come out unfavorable to the brewer.
I mean, there's a technical component to it, right? But yeah.
Yep.
You have to make that call on aroma and flavor, and then feeling it and looking at it, and like you talk, splitting them open. I think we have that shot.
Yep.
I'm going to do a quick shout out if we got people joining us. We're talking with Mike Moran of My Local Hops. If you have questions, please throw them in or a comment, or just let us know you're here. We're going to be giving away some hop water, which is a new product we're doing. And we'll probably be going for another 10 minutes or so. So if you do have questions, please throw them out so we can address those. I want to get to a question that came in, I think, from Steve. He put it in as Beards, but
good question.
It is a really good question. Let me just show this cone split real quick, because we were talking about that, and I just wanted to make sure people got an idea again. So what are we looking at? Let's see if I can I guess it doesn't really make it much bigger. What is that? You see that kind of like yellow in there, and then you see the green outside. What are we looking at here?
You're looking at lupulin glands. Okay. And that yellow stuff is lupulin powder. And that can vary in color. It can get dark, almost dark orange. It can get gold. And as you can see, that's kind of a bright neon yellow. You're looking at a centennial cone right there. And it's a good looking centennial cone. If you search lupulin powder or lupulin glands on Google, you'll find some really cool microscopic pictures of what's going on in there.
Okay. Well, we'll let people explore that a little on their own, maybe. But there's so many levels of hops, and you can get into pretty technical.
Yeah.
Earlier you talked about, festivals, Suds and Sun. I know you've been involved personally on organizing festivals and whatnot. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your experience there, but first, you often come to festivals wearing a good outfit. And I think that's a question we got here. What are some of the best outfits you remember seeing at Suds and Snow or Suds and Sun or any of the other ones? And what are the festivals that you work with?
So I work with Suds and Snow, Suds and Sun. Those are the two that I have time for. And I'd be involved in a few more. But My Local Hops is a priority to me. But it's also, when I came on, that was part of my deal of coming to work for My Local, is that I was still able to do Suds and Snow and Suds and Sun.
Yeah.
The Suds and Snow. Yeah. That's, what we do is it's the one festival we do that has a theme every year, and we try to get it because it's in the first Saturday of March every year, and it's at Timber Ridge Resort. So it's, you've been to it quite a few times.
Yeah.
You've been pouring some beers there. You got to have a nice warm outfit. So whatever kind of that's the first thing. It's like, what can we do costume wise where we know people aren't going to freeze? And then from then on, whether it's 80 ski bum, that's pretty easy. You can get on Amazon. You can find plenty of onesie ski outfits and things like that. But this year it was a 70s theme, which is pretty versatile. We try to choose versatile themes. And as far as outfits go, man, I just look for color and I look for a sense of humor. Some of the best costumes I've seen over the past years are, people dressing up as mainly animals, horses, cows, all those things. We did a Western theme that really did us some good. 70s was fun. And then we did Hawaiian. We've done Mardi Gras. If you want to check out some cool outfits and cool videos, people really have a lot of fun with it. Just go to sudsandsnowtc.com.
Yeah. If people want to learn more to that point too about My Local hops, what is a good way for them to learn more? Or if brewers are watching and want to use your hops, or is there opportunity for home brewers to access your hops? Like how do you get a hold of My Local and what are the options there?
So we have a new e-commerce platform on our website. It's mylocalhops.com. We just opened that up a couple months ago. And slowly we put our own varieties on there,
right?
For right now, and then we'll get into. We do broker hops mainly because we think it's important. We want to bring in. We work with independent farms in the Pacific Northwest, farms like Crosby Hop Farm, which have been around for decades and decades and decades, and we'll bring those in, and then we'll ship from our facilities, but. My Local hops, that's just us. That's working directly with us. We also use a website called the Lupulin Exchange, which we sell on frequently. That's mainly B2B businesses, brewers. And then you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at My Local Hops.
On your website, do you sell quantities a home brewer could?
Right now, our home brewer selection is mainly at U-Brew. In Traverse City, and we've been working with them since they've opened up. We were doing 2-ounce packaging and 8-ounce packaging. We were doing that ourselves, so that's something that we try to stack up on. We try to stack U-Brew with. So if you're looking for Michigan homebrew hops, that's where you go. There's a few other places that I know that are picking up our hops, or I know some of them buy in bulk and then they make their own packaging. But I'll hopefully have more information on that on the website in the next 6 months.
Great. There was one thing I was thinking grain or on the broker found that because they have somebody hands growing, packaging, and select varieties local that we can work with to also get those varieties you don't. So I think that's an service. I mean, somebody that understands the process doing the brewing is really nice local context. So I would encourage anybody that is looking to buy commercially to work with you guys. I think that's a great service you offer.
Yeah, it's the reality of it is people there are great hops out there that just don't grow here. And like I talked about earlier, we don't have the licensing and we don't have the permission to grow them. They're owned. They're not public domain. So and we're hoping to build those relationships up with the Pacific Northwest. We've got really good relationships with YCH and Crosby and Cornerstone Ranches, and they've been very good to us and giving us access to these hops. So, but we want to be transparent on where they're coming from. That has a lot to do with the knowledge that we're talking about as far as getting to know your ingredients. You know, if you're just buying hops from a broker who doesn't give you the details, how are you going to know, how are you going to really know what you're working with? I mean, you're working with basically sausage.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff, if you familiarize yourself with the process, if you're not doing selection in Washington, then you're getting the unselected stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And everything is graded. So if you're not working with people you don't know, or if you're not if it's a lot easier when you're working with people you know and you can trust, and you see them on a regular basis, and you're communicating with them on a regular basis. And if I get some stuff that if I get Idaho 7 and it's not Idaho 7, I have somebody to talk to about it.
Yeah.
So does the brewer.
Yeah.
So that's a super important thing. I'm not going to cast blame on, well, I just got these hops from somewhere,
Yeah. No, it's been great for us, so we appreciate working with you guys. Mike, this has been great. I don't know if there's anything else you want to share. Otherwise, I think it's time for a cheers and a wrap it up.
Yeah. I'm good. I just want to say I appreciate Beards. I appreciate how much you guys are involved in the education of this entire thing, and doing stuff like this is very cool. So I just want to say hello to Emily and Justin and Ben and Steve. Yeah. I've known Ben a long time. Yeah. So very proud to see what you guys have built, and especially for the city of Petoskey. I love Petoskey, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
And we feel
you guys are doing a great job.
You guys there and so close to us, and such a good relationship. So cheers.
Cheers.